Welcome to the Mutual Success Podcast, where we hear how entrepreneurs and extraordinary sales professionals are helping each other, their clients, their communities, and maybe even saving the world. Today we meet Ben Schroeder, an extraordinary salesperson who deals in the esoteric and exquisite foods to New York's finest restaurants. He started his career as an intern in one of Europe's most amazing eateries, and then brought that valuable experience and knowledge back to Renaissance Detroit, where he helped found one of the first nationally recognized restaurants. He almost walked away from his career very early on, but was lucky enough to meet a kindred spirit from America who revitalized his energy to stay strong in the path to mutual success. Let's dive right in and hear about that experience.
So within our first week at Noma, I think, the overwhelming nature of what we got ourselves into just kind of hit me in the face. And I was just sitting on a bench outside of the restaurant before I went in. I actually was considering just quitting, but we made it too far to do that. And I look to my right and I see this kid and he's kind of feeling the same way as I am. He just like hears my accent. He's like, "Oh, you're American? Like, thank you so much for this." And we kind of just had this bonding moment where, we're two 19-year-old American kids just like way in over our heads at the best restaurant in the world with no experience. And then we went out together every night, probably way too late. We did a lot of stupid stuff together, but I think that's ultimately what got us through the experience.
It's part of the culture of what you're in, and it's part of the camaraderie of what we do with people in the same business as us. And that's an excellent story of a great person who's gone on to great things, just like you have. So say a little bit more about how you got into the business.
Yeah, so my culinary journey kind of started a bit unorthodox. I did not go to culinary school. It wasn't really my intention either at the beginning phase of it. I ended up dropping out of high school at a pretty young age of 16 and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I always knew that I was a very hands-on artistic person. I'm very sensory. I enjoy working with my hands. Like, school never interested me. And I figured, why finish it if I'm not going to go to college? Let's find something to do, in a very productive way. And my older brother was working for Thomas Keller in San Francisco, I think San Francisco at the time. Sorry, Napa Valley. And he ended up pushing me to apply for my Noma internship, which I'm completely shocked that I got it still. Like, especially now, the positions I'm in, looking at other people's resumes, I look at my old resume and I just kind of laugh that they were like, we really want this kid to learn with us.
Amazing. And obviously it propelled you into a great series of opportunities after that. So what happened after Noma?
So after Noma was when I moved back to Detroit. I actually had some bureaucratic issues with my visa and I had to leave early. I tried to stay illegally. I did for a little bit, but they got me eventually. But those are the opportunities that I mentioned, like fighting for what I want. Like, I'm not going to let the government tell me like I can't have this. Like, the young kid that was hungry for like success was not taking no for an answer. I ended up taking it, but it took a lot of work on their part, I will say. But yeah, I moved back to Detroit. I was on the opening team for Voyager outside of Ferndale. We were the first restaurant in Michigan to get national recognition through Food and Wine magazine and Esquire magazine, which I thought was really cool. I was only, I want to say 21 at the time as a sous chef. And it was really impressive, like with a team of 3 most of the time, like in a really tight space, limited budget, like we were able to pump out some of the food that I've been still the most proud of. Like, I do private chef events now, and when clients ask for like my portfolio of food photos, it's usually pulling from that era of my cooking, which I think is great because, it was like early in my career, but it's still what I'm like most proud of. I think it just felt like it felt very genuine, and it was like the biggest like growth that I've experienced in that role.
And when was that?
That was 2017 and 18.
Okay, so we know that around through the late 20s, Detroit was tough. So bringing something as beautiful as that to get national recognition, that's really saying something. doing something powerful for the community as well.
Yeah, it was really nice as well. Like beyond obviously being proud of ourselves and the team, like I think it really empowered other Detroit area chefs and like people within the hospitality industry to kind of like, burst their bubble a little bit. Because in Detroit, it's not a major city. Like we really only have like the Detroit Free Press to worry about. Like we have one food critic, and we're all kind of pulling each other's hair to be better, but like we're not looking big enough. I don't think like the big picture was set in yet. And then, once you start getting national recognition and like James Beard Awards, like I think that really opened up the Detroit food scene, which I'm super proud of. And especially now, like the amount that it's changed in the past 5, 6 years even is outstanding. And like the amount of money it's brought to the city, the amount of tourism, it makes me super proud to see how quickly it's changed.
Right. And think about all the people locally that, may have not have thought of food as a career. And, because of what the recognition that you got and how far that spread out, that's going to be a really conscious choice that a lot of young kids make.
Absolutely. And it's nice to see the names pop up, that I recognize I was the young cook at one point. I've been the baby everywhere. It's nice to see the kids that worked, younger than me now start making names for themselves. Now they're getting into management, they're winning awards. A very like a big accomplishment for the city of Detroit and like personally, because he's a friend of mine, that I would love to express as well. My friend Charlie, who's the chef at Clover Hill in Brooklyn, like he's from where I'm from. We briefly met. And then like 6 years later, I'm working with him now. Like I sell him truffles and king crabs, all the fun stuff. Like he was the first Black chef in New York to win a Michelin star, and he's like from my city. So to like see people really take that next step and see what's possible, I think it makes me super happy, and that's why I do the job that I do, because I get to empower people in my industry to like express themselves in the best way possible.
Well, I want to get to the truffles and king crabs a little bit later. My mouth is watering, but talk about a little bit about what happened after Voyager.
So Voyager, yeah, after Voyager, I took a little bit of a sabbatical. I ended up moving to India for a number of months. I have like this just like never ending urge to go learn other cultures, cuisines. It was mostly food focused. Granted, I did have a lot of fun in between, but I think it was probably one of the highlights of my career, even though it's not really something I can put on my resume. I was living in a village setting for a few months, and I got the opportunity to cook with a very lovely man named Viraj. We were in like a permaculture design course, and I told them like I have no interest in this, but what I can do is cook for the people in the program. And I thought it would be a really cool opportunity to take a cuisine that I love and like learn it in its most natural state. So Viraj and I, my brother was there as well, and a few other people. We built like a clay tandoor from the ground, and like twice a day we were cooking meals for 30 people, and I learned like top to bottom just Indian cuisine for like 3 months straight.
Amazing.
And that led to a later project, but I think being out of a kitchen environment and after getting some of that like Michelin exposure, I thought that was also equally as important, because it really brought like the community aspect back to me. Because food has always been something that I think it starts as like a passion, but it turns into like the labor of love disappears after you go Michelin sometimes, or when you're trying to win awards, because you're going for perfection. You want everything to be perfect. You get your tweezers out. It's no longer about like the smile that you can offer people. But being able to like go cook in the jungle like that, I had some of the best food I've ever had, and it was like the most pure interaction, which I thought was incredible.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks for that. Now, and then you ultimately came back. Tell us about that.
I ended up going to Sweden for 3 months after this, but yes.
All right, let's talk about the detour in Sweden. Was that anything meaningful happen there?
Yeah, so this was another job that I got that I was super happy with. There was a restaurant that I worked at called Favakin, very in line with Noma, except very small. I would say our team was probably about 15 to 18 people. There was another 2 Michelin star like previous 50 best in the world. This was like my dream restaurant. This is what I always looked up to. You know, it's like who I watched on TV growing up, who I read books about, and just mutually through my network, I knew someone who was a chef there, so I got, you know, a placement. It was the hardest job I've ever had, but it was also met with like some of the most beautiful experiences. You know, like we look out the kitchen window to mountains, people are landing in their helicopter in our front yard. It was insane. It was, they said this to me and I never really believed it until after, but the way it was orchestrated was kind of like a play, you know, like you stand in the same place at the same time every day. Not a lot changes. It drives you crazy, but when you look at how it works perfectly together, you realize like, I don't know. I saw the place of perfection in a kitchen, which in turn made me not want to do it anymore. Because I was like, how can I beat this?
Amazing. So, you know, now fast forward a little bit to what you're doing now, because obviously you've got some of the most eclectic foods in one of the toughest environments in the world. So, you know, let's start from the beginning of your current project.
Absolutely. So when I came back to New York, I actually moved here because I was approached on Instagram of all places. A man, Toby Levy, who is one of the owners of Prince Street Hospitality, like they own Lola Taverna, Cucina Alba, Little Prince. His director of operations reached out to me. I'd never met him before and asked like, "Oh, are you interested in having your own project with us?" And, you know, I was still 23, 24 at the time. Like that was a golden opportunity for me to move to New York, open a restaurant with my name. Uh, Long story short with that, it was kind of cut small because of COVID. You know, I helped open Lola Taverna. I took over a restaurant, Babuji, which was an Indian spot, so it was fitting. We were supposed to close it, open my concept. We got like pretty close to the end, and then opening week was COVID shutdown.
Whoopsie daisy.
Yeah, you know, but hindsight's 2020. It's fine. But that ended up leading me to a really cool position that I'm currently in. The owner of my current company, I met when I was working in Sweden. He was one of our guests, so it kind of came full circle. I ended up reaching out to him on Instagram, and he blew me off completely. And then I kept putting in the work. I've never not gotten a job that I wanted, and this was the first time somebody blew me off, and it made me irritated. I was like, you can't blow me off. I'm getting this job. So a few months later, I hit him back up, and then I kind of like backdoored it, hit somebody else up. And then here I am. Now I'm like running the New York sales division. We supply luxury goods like truffles, caviar, wagyu, wild mushrooms, pretty much anything that comes from the earth that's rare and exotic. Work with like pretty much the whole Michelin Guide of New York. We reach the whole nation too, but I'm focused on New York mostly. But it's incredible to, at my age, have such a large hand in the success of a lot of these restaurants, because it goes back to the same point. You know, like I work with Eric Ripert at Le Bernardin, I work with Daniel Boulud, I work with Masa, like all of these household chef names that like I've looked up to my entire career. And now we have phone conversations, we laugh, I show up with truffles and guests are wowed. It's just like I'm on the complete other side of the industry now, and it's insane to have both perspectives and work with the clients that I get to.
Right. Well, the pressure is off in a way, but the
Oh,
pressure is on because you cannot mess around with truffles and caviar.
definitely comes with a lot more pressure. Like, you know, these clients expect perfection.
Mhm.
And also, like, I am big into customer service. Like, I expect as close to perfection as I can. You know, my job, I want my clients to be happy when they see me. I don't want to be like a sneaky salesman. You know, I want to be the one you call at 5 p.m. because, oh, I have a VIP guest, like the prince of a country is coming in tonight. Can you please come with truffles? Like, that's kind of the life that I live, you know?
Oh, right. Well, there's a lot of value that you can bring to the world with with just feeding people right, because going out
Yeah.
on a full stomach is definitely a relaxing, comforting, and brings joy to people all around the world. Um, so I know it's for me, it's almost unfair to ask you with something as beautiful as this, what happens next? But what do you see as your future, and how to even build on all, you know, this beautiful thing that you've gotten so far?
So this is something that I've actually been really excited about in my current position. I'm never really satisfied. I'm one of those people that, I always need something to brag to myself about, like, oh, look what we accomplished this year. How do we make it better next year? Like, I'm never gonna stop doing that. And I think that speaks volumes to where I'm at now in a short time. Um, but I'm currently working on a few projects. I'm starting to get back on the other side of the door. I'm looking to open a bar and restaurant in the city with a group of friends of mine who work in real estate. Um, it just kind of works out to where they get access to all of the best spots. They work with a lot of my clients and place them. We have a really good friend who's a contractor who's willing to work with us. Like the pieces are just kind of falling together to have a project again. And now we're shooting for a restaurant group as opposed to just a singular spot. Like I see so many successful people around me. I work with all of these chefs. I see what works, what doesn't. So I feel like I have a missing puzzle piece to kind of get it right the first time. And then I'm also currently working on a pitch for a reality TV show that kind of exemplifies the life of private chefs.
Hmm.
I think what I'm really trying to show people, I'm trying to get away from the romanticism that, like, no hate on food television, but I think like Chef's Table, Mind of a Chef, they're entertaining, but they don't like give you the real person story. They give you a very romanticized version of, like, it's what people want to watch. It's shiny.
Right.
I really want to do the opposite. And like, I really want to show the people as people instead of like, figures of an industry. Like I want to see what they do on their days off. I want to see how their brains work. I want to go do their favorite hobby with them. And then also, like watch them cook and hopefully their guests are entertained at the same time. I really want to show like a POV perspective and like show people what real life is like for these people.
That's
And I
great.
have a great network of clients that would love to do this.
Yeah, I have no doubt about it. And just to, no pressure, but what do you think about your effect on the next generation? Obviously, we've talked about a lot of ways you've helped them so far, but any thoughts about how this might impact kids, and what might you be able to do to people that we're interested in as a high school dropout who's literally reached the pinnacle of success all around the world?
uh, I've never really thought about how I'm affecting the future, but the thing that I think about a lot is like how I affect the climate around me right now. Especially post COVID, like the hospitality industry hemorrhaged so much. There was so much like, there was closures, there was a lot of losses of jobs. And like working in a luxury industry, I almost feel guilty sometimes because I feel like, people are scraping for what they can get. And then here I am showing up with a $5,000 truffle. It just feels a little counterproductive sometimes. But truth be told, I don't really look at it that way anymore. I think what we provide is opportunity for people to be known and to be seen. So like really what I'm doing for the generation of chefs coming up and current chefs that exist now, like we're giving them a spotlight, and nothing comes for free. It's either hard work, it's
Right.
cash, time. And I think, like let's be honest, if you want to get a New York Times write up, if you want to get, any kind of recognition, like you kind of have to show off of it. It's, and you should if you're good at what you do. I think that's very important. Like don't be an asshole, of course, but like, show people what you have. And, the best PR that you can give is like fancy ingredients or a $99 grilled cheese with caviar, like silly stuff, but it really does work. And I think, we just provide a tool, whether you want it or not, you
Right.
know.
Well, competition breeds excellence. We know that,
I-
and we're seeing that we see that in your industry, and you've obviously done very well with it. So, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for spending the time with us today. It's been concise, but I think there's a lot of power in everything you've said, and I know people are going to enjoy watching this. So, thanks for being on my podcast.
Absolutely.
So.